You're listening to Diva Tonight with Carleen Humphrey, a relationship podcast with a focus on life, love, and friendship. This is the space where real conversations happen, stories are shared, and women in their 40s feel seen, heard, and inspired. Welcome to Diva Tonight.
Hi, I'm Carleen, and this is Diva Tonight. I'm thrilled to have with me on Zoom Kadeem, the Coach McLean. He is the author of Wings of Abundance, your strategic guide to uplift and empower you to financial overflow. And he is a financial advisor, a coach. He's also helped me with trying to be accountable. Hi, Kadeem.
How's it going, Carly?
It's going well. You know, I've read some of the book, and I think what's interesting that you say in it is, the word budget. I think we all have a hard time with, like it's a bad word or something. I think the term budget, it's not like we know what it is, but I think you said it best in the book that it's something that a lot of people have a hard time working with, right?
Absolutely.
Just working. Yeah.
Further to that point, and coming up in a household where, money was a concern is how I'll put it. And in the community, really, where money is a concern and mostly a taboo topic. Speaking about, excuse my language, this thing called budget, a lot of people, again, they kind of have a negative connotation towards it. They see it in a negative light. When you hear budget, like, oh, well, I don't got the time to do that, or so on and so forth. But really, the way I always look at it is a financial map, right? On any map, you need to know 2 points. One is where you want to go. But if you don't know where you are, then you cannot get to where you want to go. You don't know which route to take. Everyone has dreams and aspirations when it comes to finances and their life and so on. Things we want to accomplish, the house we want to live in, the area. And that's great. That's the destination. But how do you know where you're starting? That's why we need that budget, right? And it doesn't have to be anything serious. There's many different ways to do it, but it's the picture of where you currently are is how I look at it. And not everyone, but some people think they're above a budget, unfortunately. Oh, I don't need to do a budget and it's obviously going to help me. And it absolutely will. Big corporations, Amazon, Google, Walmart, they do quarterly, annual budgets. Right? They look at their finances regularly. So if we really have these dreams and aspirations we want to achieve, but we're not looking at where we are, we don't know which route to take. We can't course correct. We don't know if we're on track, if we're off track, or if we're heading in the wrong direction. That's why a budget is so important.
Yeah. I feel like the thing is, because we weren't taught it at a young age, it's something that you learn later on in life. I think, for me, I learned about a budget in school, but we didn't go in too much depth. I think I remember economics in high school, and then I didn't get my first credit card till university. I had no idea what a credit card would do, what it establishes, until I was couldn't pay my minimum payments. I had to go on a payment plan, and that affected my credit. They have those people in university, standing, recruit, you know what I mean? They have those salespeople working there, and you get a credit card and you're I'll use it to buy books, and you spend all this money, but it wasn't until I spent too much, you know what I mean? And then it's the aftermath of it. So it's never been a discussion, I find. And I think a lot of people can relate with that, because I don't think it's a thing that is taught in every household. I can't talk for many other people, but I know from my own personal experience and from my friends that, yeah.
Yeah. I come up in, like I said, my community, my area, the area I lived in, my family, friends, the whole 9 yards. We didn't really talk about it. Right. And it's also a thing where I don't even know if it's just Caribbean parents, to be honest, but or a Caribbean mother, but that's maybe immigrants partially or mostly. You can look at certain cultures, let's say, without going too far into it, and have an idea to say, okay, finances is not taught in every household or in most households based off of, being from a Caribbean background or whatever the case is. Right. And part of that is for anybody who has Caribbean parents, a Caribbean mother, especially, because that's who raised me, the strong face is on 24/7. And to a degree, I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be, but to a degree, it needed to be in a lot of situations. So we're not going to talk about the things that are holding us back per se in terms of finances. The mistakes that have been made, the errors. The most I heard about money growing up was credit was important. Don't let anybody mess up your credit. That's all that was said about credit. I wasn't taught what a credit card is. I wasn't taught what credit is, why it's important, the different lines of credit, how I can utilize credit to grow a business or to achieve these goals of, again, the house, the car, the wife, whatever the case might be. And I was told to save money. I wasn't told where to save money. I wasn't told about this thing called investing. I wasn't told anything about inflation, right? The thing that eats away at our dollars. I wasn't told about the rule of 72, dollar cost averaging, nothing along these lines. Again, I sympathize with that, but these are all reasons why I wrote the book. Some of the reasons, right? My personal upbringing, things that I saw my mother go through, things that I went through financially. And I know there's single mothers out there and even couples, husband and wives who are together and still struggling, not knowing necessarily what to do with their finances. I know somebody like me with my level of knowledge in finances and entrepreneurship and everything at this point, if someone like me sat with my mother back then, we wouldn't have lost the house. The car wouldn't have been repoed. Things would have been different, right? So these are some of the reasons why I wrote the book, to get it into the hands of people who are in those situations, to get their mind right when it comes to finances, when it comes to budgets, to understand the importance of these things, so we could put things in place where money may be an issue right now, but it doesn't have to be 2 or 5 years down the road. So, and to come full circle, one of the things you talked about was not really being taught credit or what to do with credit and so on. That's why I think it's so important. We need to have these conversations and take off the strong face, let's say, in front of our children and the younger generation so that they can avoid the mistakes we made and learn from our mistakes.
Yeah. It's true. Cause I mean, you know, like we could start off with like just debt alone, like getting a student loan and like, you know, just planning for that, like not really thinking about, okay, so when I get this loan, it's going to have this much of interest after I graduate. Then after maybe 6 months, like, you know, all the things that come up that you really don't plan for. And I think it's like you said, I'm just saying, like, in terms of, do you know anyone who does not have a budget and who's disciplined, who's good with money like that?
No, I do not. Because anybody who is good with money will have a budget, right? There are millionaires.
Yeah.
And I said that with good emphasis.
Yeah.
Who are spending a lot more than they should be. If you make $100,000 this month, Carlene, but you spend $100,000, what do you have left? Zero. Why do you have zero left? Because you didn't have a budget. Mm-hmm. So without the budget, you're not disciplined to anything. If you're disciplined with finances, you know what's coming in, you know what's going out. You review your finances. Because if you're not reviewing your finances, you have no idea. Money is slipping through the hole in your pocket and you don't realize it. Think of it this way. And I think I gave this example in the book or maybe on one of my podcast episodes. But if you have a boat and you go out to sea without checking if this boat has holes in it, but there are holes in this boat, you're going to sink, right? But if you go out in this boat and before you set sail, you check your boat to see if there's holes in it and you make sure you're all good, then you can set out to sail and you will go a lot further than you would have otherwise. But guess what? While you're still on that journey, you continually check for holes in the boat. The holes in your boat, the only way you can see if they are there is if you inspect it. The only way you know if there's holes in your financial game plan is if you inspect it and you do your budget regularly, right?
Yeah.
Again, I don't know anyone personally. Literally was thinking about it as you asked me.
You're racking your brain?
Yeah, I'm like, do I know anyone that's disciplined and good with money but doesn't have a budget? And no, I do not.
No, I know. I mean, even if they're not doing it, they've hired someone to do it, right? Because you have to be accountable for expenses for a business, right? So, yeah.
And that's another piece too, is somebody who just saves money, depending on where they're. So let me preface this. Investing and saving are two different things.
Okay, explain.
Investing and saving are two different things. Saving means you're just putting money away into a quote unquote savings account, right? It might be with your bank. I'm not recommending you put money with your bank in your bank account and just leave it there, right? Because this thing called inflation is eating away at your money. Inflation is the cost of goods and services rising over time. I'm sure you've all heard this before. A cup of coffee is not what it used to be 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago. I remember going into Walmart or Tim Hortons, and paying maybe 50 cents for a donut, 75 cents for a donut, and then getting a French vanilla, let's say, for $1.50, something along those lines. Now I don't even know what it is. It's like $3, and a donut is $1.25, or those specialty donuts, $1.50, whatever the case is. goods and services rising over time. Your grocery bill, it's not what it used to be, especially since the pandemic, right? In 2020, it's different. Things keep going up. But guess what? Your dollars are not going up if you're just saving. That's where the issue comes in. Because if inflation has been, let's say, 3.75% for the last 60 years on average, has your money grown above 3.75%? That's not even the real number for inflation. It's more like 6 to 8%, to be honest. But is your money going above that every year? Because if it's not, when you put money in that bank account, you put $100 in there. If your money's going down 8% because of this inflation thing every year, you no longer have $100 when the new year comes. You have $92. It shows as 100, but you only be able to buy a $92 worth of goods and services because everything else went up in price, right? So saving again is one thing.
Even when you're saving, in order to get the typical interest rate that the bank will give you, I think you need, like with some bank accounts, like you need at least $10,000 in the account. Like it has to stay there.
Some of them, yes, they won't give you certain, let's say, investments unless you have a certain amount of money to put away.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why it's important to have certain people in your circle, I guess, because, for example, for you, I've given you access and some of my other clients access to investments where typically you don't get access to that unless you have over 6 figures. Right. But the last point I think I was going to make there, as I try to remember and it comes back to me, is investing now, because savings we talked about. Right. You're putting money away, ideally not under your mattress. Don't listen to what people used to say because that's making you lose money. And putting it into your savings account with your bank is pretty much equivalent to putting it under your mattress. But now investing, that's where you go and you put it into an account where it's going to grow for you. You are investing in companies. You are investing in the stock market, right? You're investing in Walmart, Amazon, Tesla, these other companies, technology companies, whichever companies. I personally say invest with what you use. Right? If you go to Walmart, typically you can invest with some Walmart, or I guess some Walmart stocks in your portfolio. If you use Apple products and devices, get Apple, Amazon, Tesla, like whatever it might be, and start small. But investing is where your money will grow for you, and you can beat this thing called inflation. So again, there's a difference: saving versus investing.
Can you explain inflation for those of us that understand it but somewhat don't? Like I feel like when they keep saying, "Okay, inflation's going up," and then you're like, "Okay, well the banks are going to be charging more for what? Are we talking about the mortgage? Are we talking about, like, just explain it in layman's terms? Because I understand how inflation works, but I still, yeah,
no problem. So again, I remember this is probably a good example. So inflation, right? Pre-pandemic, I was buying grapes, right? I buy my fruits and green grapes specifically. I like green grapes. Some people kind of cringe at that. They say, "What the heck, green grapes? Like, it's purple." No. Like green grapes, right? And I was getting grapes and it may have cost $3, $4 maybe for a bag at the time. And then I think it was during the pandemic, somewhere in the middle, towards the tail end maybe, I went and I attempted to buy groceries as I typically would. And I bought a bag of grapes. And remember, I said it was about $4 before this. I put this thing on the scale.
Yeah.
And it said $12. And I was like, absolutely not. That is the last time I bought grapes to this day. $12 for what used to cost $4. The point is, every year, what you're buying, you consistently go and buy coffee. You consistently go and buy grapes. Gas prices, Carly. I remember paying 50 cents a liter, 70 cents a liter. Now I remember seeing $1.40 in recent years, $1.50 at one point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So again, inflation is the things that you're regularly buying, these goods and services, your grocery bill, the pizza you buy, the McDonald's, whatever else it might be, constantly going up in price against you over the years. So that's why I come back to, if the goods and services you're using your money to purchase are going up in price, is your money going up in value to meet or beat that? Because if it's not, you're losing money every single day. And that's where investing comes in to help hedge against that and beat that thing called inflation, so you can really grow your money. And your $100 today is still $100 tomorrow, or $112.
Okay. Yeah. So, we're talking about wings of abundance, and then just understanding, I guess what we say, financial literacy. But in order to start from the beginning, I say, this is my signature saying, it's not where you're going, it's where you came from. And so there's more to the book than meets the eye. Obviously, there's the person who wrote the book, right? And so for those who don't know who you are, where did you grow up?
Good question. So I grew up in Mississauga, Ontario, right?
Yeah.
Jamaican background, Jamaican mother raised me. And it was an interesting life so far, is what I'll say, right? An interesting upbringing. I realized the apartment that we were in towards the end of my high school days, let's say, was not too far from the first house where I was actually born. And I only realized that in the past, 7 years, maybe. So I was like, oh, I never knew we lived so close. So I was always in the same pocket, let's say, throughout my whole life. I didn't realize it until I went to Niagara College for school. I studied computer systems technician, IT. Yeah, so I was born and raised in Mississauga, kind of lived in that area for a while, and just recently actually moved to Alberta.
Yeah. And so all through high school, were you a A+ student?
Yes. Yeah, so throughout high school, yes. There was a turning point in my elementary school days were my grades and I guess how serious I took myself. So I played football for 9 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
Organized football. Played basketball regularly, not ever organized except for when I was on the elementary school team. You name a sport, I played it for the most part. Soccer when I was a kid, still regularly throughout elementary school, played soccer, tennis here and there. But in I want to say it was grade 5, I was being made fun of, let's say, for my grades. And it's ironic because the kid who was making fun of me actually had worse grades than me. So I was like, I'm confused here.
Yeah.
But anyhow, he was making fun of me. I got tired of it. And I said, you know what, man? I'm going to prove to myself, most importantly, and then prove to you that I'm smart enough to get good grades. So I turned around and just complete all my homework in school before I went home for the day. Cause I knew I wanted to play and chill out, relax, watch some shows, play basketball, whatever after school. Well, let me just finish my homework in school so I don't have homework. And so from then on, grade 6 onward, I did that because grade 6, actually, I was told I was one of the most improved students in the school thanks to that encounter. And I actually got a chance to go to Tim Hortons camp. The principal nominated me to go to Tim Hortons camps. And from then they invited me back for leadership program, which is a whole other conversation. But I went through their whole program, worked with them as a counselor, as a facilitator, giving back to the youth. So to answer your question about my grades, yes, high school, definitely my A+, let's say.
Yeah.
And then college, same thing.
So, it's interesting. You don't really mention your mom in that whole turnaround with school. So I find it interesting that it was a student that said something to you that changed your whole outlook on school and grades and just changing your life around, right?
Right.
But was your mom typical Caribbean mom? Was she you need to do better in school, or did she,
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, she, not so much, to be honest, because I stayed out of trouble. I was never a kid in trouble. Regardless of what my grades were, I was doing enough to pass. So I wasn't necessarily applying myself, don't get me wrong, but I was doing enough to pass, right? 60, 65, whatever the case is, maybe the occasional 70 if I'm remembering correctly. But I stayed out of trouble. I was a good kid, never had any issues, got along with everybody. But my mother was too busy to really have a concern with my grades. Never mind that, 3 of my older brothers, they dropped out of school, right?
Wow.
So so grades.
You're the youngest? I forgot.
I'm the youngest boy. Yeah. There's 11 of us. I'm the youngest boy. My mom's side, there's 6 of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I have a younger sister, but my mother working 2-3 jobs at a time, couldn't really pay too much attention to my grades. However, I do specifically remember times where my mother would sit down and help me with my math. And then she subscribed to, I don't remember the name of it, but monthly, no, not Scholastic. I think it was from Scholastic. It was something we found in Scholastics, if I'm not mistaken, but there was different things in there, like Where is Waldo, but a lot of math questions to help my brain work and whatnot. So she subscribed me to that. And then monthly, I would get these magazines or whatever they were, and I could work through the problems in there, which absolutely helped me with my grades. So I don't remember a time where she told me to do better with my grades, but subliminally she told me because she got me those Scholastics.
Yeah. So, you didn't have the strict parents like I did. Even when I was very studious, I loved school. School was my happy place, I did a lot of extracurricular activities. I was on the sports teams and that. But even when I did do well, I think when I finally picked up, pulled out my socks or whatever you want to call it, because grade 9 and 10, I didn't make it on the honor roll. And then I think it was grade 11 when they were saying that, oh, you need to have a certain GPA because if you're going to go to college or university, that kind of thing, right? But I had like a mom who was just like, I would get the 85 and she's like, why couldn't you get the 90? You know? Yeah. And she worked a lot too, but I was just like, I worked my butt off to get this 85. Like it wasn't, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's one of those things, but I feel like it's something that's very common in Korean families for sure. If they're not saying it, they're implicitly saying it. Like your mom got you those books. My mom got me books too. I remember like all the books I had, like from Growler, I think. Like I had Arthur, like all the books that my mom got. So yeah, like it's like both hand in hand. So they're not saying it, they're making it. You know what I mean? Or like if you're playing, like you know how you said you did your homework at school so you can hang out after. When I was hanging out with the kids playing after school, my mom would come and get me. Or like if I'm home watching hours of TV, because I could watch hours, Kadeem. And then she'd be like, turn off the TV and read a book.
All the time. That one I can't. I heard that one too many times. Read a book. I'm bored. Go read a book.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's so true though.
Season 4 of Diva Tonight brings you incredible guests, honest conversations, real experiences, and lessons we can all take with us. Diva Tonight. Glamour for your ears.
It's obviously those are the things that help you get to where you are now. And, you know, you have lots of books in the back there, you know. So the one thing I didn't ask you was it hard to write the book? Like to focus on it, like, you know, the plan to implement it?
There was a lot of work that went into it for sure. I struggle to answer that question directly because everything has a level of difficulty to it. But I don't necessarily like looking at my life and saying it's hard, right? There was definitely difficulty to it. And me being the person who I am, a perfectionist, for anybody who does not know, I will go back to it and I will tweak it. I will rewrite it. I will reword it. I will be like, oh, shoot, but I should add this in there. Oh, no, I didn't add this or that. And then at one point I sat down and I looked at every chapter and I'm like, wait, there is so much information in this book. So it's good. Let me step away and stop with the tweaking. Let me get it out there. What I did actually was I released it on my mother's birthday, November 19th, just as a tribute to her, let's say. And setting that deadline is what helped me to push to get it out there. Because if I didn't do that, I would have continued to tweak it and add to it, add stories to it, and the whole 9 yards. The process was definitely interesting and enlightening, I'll say. Because from one perspective, I'll say, no, it wasn't hard or difficult, let's say. Because I have the information. I've been studying finances for 12 plus years, entrepreneurship for 12 plus years. It's not, the information is in me. I just need to get it down and organize it, right? There's a lot more information that I have than what's in the book, but what's in the book will help people to elevate their finances and put them in a different situation, right? I didn't want to make it too expansive or too long or anything like that because people get daunted by a long book. So I purposely made it shorter so that people could sit down, read it, and take the information. If you apply the principles in this book, you will change your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think so. You've covered everything in the book, budgeting, debt, you know. I guess what I can ask you in terms of the book, who's your target audience, do you feel? Like when you wrote the book, I know you said your mom was the inspiration behind it. And I think growing up with a single parent household, that makes it a little bit more challenging and seeing that change. But was she like your main audience, like in terms of
definitely a younger version of her is my target audience, right? So I'd say a 30 to 45-year-old, right? Because at that point you're either considering having kids typically, or you already have your kids and they're starting to age and you're contemplating certain information you should or shouldn't share with them, right? And like we talked about earlier, I believe sharing some of the mistakes that people have made in life can kind of show your kids where the mines are in the minefield and help them to navigate it, right? Helping them put certain things in place, setting up investments for them from when they're young with a small amount of money every month or every couple of weeks, every paycheck that will compound over time and allow time to do its thing with your compound interest. And that'll set them up where they don't have to go and get OSAP or a student loan like I did, like you did, right? So the 45-year-old definitely. And even if you don't have kids, I share some of my personal experiences in the book, let's say, because let me backtrack. I wrote this book specifically from the perspective of, again, things that I went through in life, some debt that I had, having $20,000 in debt, plus at one point. Similar to you, when I went to college, I got I think it was a Canadian Tire credit card or something like that.
Same
from
one.
the gas station, right?
Yeah.
They got you too?
That was the one. The Canadian with the Canadian Tire money. Like, wow,
Right.
I got, that's the one that, $1,200. Like, I don't know how much I racked up on. I think that's how much it was, but yeah.
But my issue with that was I couldn't go online or anything like that or call in to see how much I had a balance, like how much my balance was. And as a matter of fact, I may have had to call in, but I couldn't just go online and check it. I ended up having to go to the store and check it. I don't even think I could call. And so I thought I paid it all off because they told me what the balance was. I went there, I paid it. And guess what? It wasn't paid off. So it accumulated interest and continued to build over time. I was like, you know what? No. How do I have $500 on this card when I pay it off? But when I paid it, I closed it, right? Which I don't recommend you close your cards. I wrote this book from the perspective of things that I personally went through, right? 20-something-year-old with $20,000 in debt, a student loan on their head. Actually, that $20,000 was not even including the student loan, but I paid it off, right? Seeing my mother go through certain things, like I said, seeing the car drive off the lot when all my family members were inside the house. The car drove off the lot one night, and I was like, what's going on here? And my mother just said they came to take the car, and then she went to her room. Again, strong face. She didn't show us any tears or anything along those lines. I'm not saying that's good or not good, but I'm sure she probably went to her room and dropped some tears, right? And I knew it was a money thing because throughout my whole life, at that point, money was always an issue. Money was always a concern, right? I'm sure you probably heard this before, Carly, but God will provide.
Yeah.
That was my mother's famous line, right? Mm-hmm. And he always does it and he always will. Mm-hmm. But seeing and my mother worked 2 or 3 jobs, right? Raising the 6 of us in the household. The house. We had to sell the house. We went from one house to a bigger house. That house had to get sold in a short time frame because my mother couldn't keep up, behind on mortgage payments. We moved into an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment for 5 of us because one of my brothers moved out, right? So seeing how much money has an effect on a family emotionally, of course, with things that we can do or unable to do. My mother was never able to come with me to, let's say, school trips. There's school trips I couldn't go on because the money wasn't there to pay for it. Certain sports I couldn't play or try out because the money wasn't there for it. And again, seeing and knowing, because I felt it, the effect of not having money on a household, I said, okay, this doesn't make any sense. I know what my mother's gone through. I know what I've gone through. And I know the stress that debt has can put on people. Let me do something to help people get rid of this stress and get the monkey off their back. And then that's where the book came from.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Cause I can identify with so many things. Like, I can't, like, there's certain things you said that you have in your experience, but like, I remember, like you said, certain trips, I remember not being able to go on a trip, but somehow I got my guidance counselor because I wanted to go on the school trip and I got them to help me because I don't think we had the money. Like you said, there were certain things that, like, we had the house, but my mom worked 2 jobs as well. And like certain things just, you saw the struggle. Like even when I would take care of my siblings as the oldest, like finding stuff for them to do. I'm like, Mom, can't you just give me some more money to take them out? Like I always have to do like stuff at like, go to the community center to take them swimming or go to the library. Anything that was free, I had to figure it out. Or like if we're going somewhere, my sisters like complain about, like we would walk there. Because I don't think I had the money. Like sometimes my mom would give me some money, but it wasn't a lot. You know what I mean? So I understand when you say that. So it's just like the struggle, like, you know what I mean? And not having all the cool things that other kids had. Like I think there was kind of like that mindset where I just got used to not having the name brand or having the coolest thing. But I think when you think back to those times, like you wanted certain things, but you just couldn't have them, right?
And at one point, definitely it is that. But hearing you say that reminded me of a couple of things. One of them is pizza day. I remember many times where everyone else is getting pizza and I'm like just sitting there with whatever little sandwich or whatever I have. But I also remember many times where I didn't have a lunch, right? Wow. Even as, I don't know if this was grade 2 or 4. No, I think it was like maybe grade 2 and then maybe grade 3, where at one point the teacher basically asked others in the class for little bits of their lunch that they weren't going to eat. Like if they didn't like grapes, they had a bunch of grapes, then maybe the teacher will take a couple of grapes and she gave some, like collected and then gave it to me basically. Because she noticed I wasn't having lunch pretty often. Days with one meal easily. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I had a rough life. Like I told you about hardship. I don't consider my life to be hard. I had some difficulty, sure. Other people have it, quote unquote, worse. I don't like to compare, but they have their own struggle to go through. So, but hearing you say that just reminded me. So yes, at one point it is the cool things, but even before that, it's the necessities, right?
Yeah.
And
you just made me think of that one time. I think it wasn't pizza day. What did I don't know if I'm going to say this in story, but they used to have patties at recess. And I don't think I had the money to buy a patty. I think I stole the money. Right. I don't remember from who, but I did, so that I could have a patty. Because I felt like you said, you're always missing out on those opportunities, just having even like $1.50. It wasn't even that much money at that time for a patty, but not even having the money for a recess snack. Yeah, those things. Yeah, like just.
But they affect you, right?
No,
especially as a kid, and then you carry that without realizing.
Yeah, like you just brought that. You talking about not having lunch just made me think of that, and I think I remember one side of the story, but not the other side. Like, yeah. Of course. But yeah, we hide that in the back of our minds. But yeah, like it's what do I say to that? It's just the struggle. If it does, like, this cliche saying, if it doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. But sometimes I think you want to be better so that if you have kids or if you're living a life that you don't want to live it in that way. Because it was hard, right? Like, and like you said, I don't think of it as a struggle. I just think of like, this is how my life was. And like, you try to think of like the positive things, like the things I did get to do and those things, not to focus on that so much. Cause I think once you do, then you get into that state of mind. You know what I mean? And I don't know, as a kid, I think when you're younger, you're supposed to be enjoying life, right? Not really thinking, oh, no, I don't have this or I don't. Yeah.
And I'm a very observant individual. So I always noticed when things were happening or who's doing what and the repercussion of those things. And we couldn't do X, Y, and Z because of finances and didn't complain about it. I understood because my mother's working 2 or 3 jobs at a time. Yeah, definitely. So it's interesting where we come from.
For sure. So, I mean, this episode we're talking about finances, and the demographic that you're talking to. So I think what I want to get back to is the series is devoted for women in their 40s. And like life in your 40s, I feel like you're supposed to be at that stage in life where you're supposed to be making better decisions financially and like getting better at life, right? And so what is your advice to women in their 40s right now? Like if they are trying to get back in the green, you know what I mean? As opposed to the red, right? Well, get back in the black is the proper saying.
Yes. I understood it when you said green, but yes.
I know. And then I was like, oh, that's not the proper term.
Okay, I got you. So one piece of advice that comes to mind automatically is don't discount the small. Do not discount the small. I'll use this because one of my friends, he always says, if you see a penny, pick it up. 99 more, you got $1, right? And so when I say don't discount the small, I talked about compounding, and compounding is your little bits adding up over time. We often think I don't have money to invest. This comes back to the budget piece. Did you even do a budget to see if you have money to invest, or is that just your mindset? Because our mindset, I understand situations may be tough. Don't get me wrong. I completely understand that. I'm not saying I'm in your situation. I don't dare to try to say that, but I know times can be tough. However, there are people who have done more with less, right? So shaping our mind, I think, is one of the first steps, really. Reshaping our mind to say, okay, let's not get stuck on, you said it, Carlene, where we are or where we were, but how can we get to that next step? And again, with that reframing of the mind, realize that if you say you don't have money, you'll never have money. You don't have money to invest. Okay, you'll never have money if that's the mindset, if that's what you keep telling yourself. Because there's power in the tongue. The words you use, you're hearing those words. And when you say them out loud, you keep repeating them to yourselves, you build a certain conditioning in your mind. So careful with the language you use, reframe that mindset. And that's why mindset, I think, is the first chapter in my book. Reframe that mindset. If we don't reframe it, nothing else matters, right? And then again, once you realize, okay, my mindset is reframed, what do I do next? With that reframe of the mind, one piece of that is don't discount the small. You say you don't have money to invest, but Warren Buffett, and we all know that name, has said many times over, pay yourself first. That's not splurge first. That's pay yourself first, meaning pay your future self. meaning take a certain percentage of every dollar you earn. And I say 10%. If you're unable to start with 10, start with 5, but aim to get up to at least 10% and put that into an investment where you leave it and you let it compound for you over years. I want to make sure I say years. I was going to say time, emphasis. It has to be years because that's where your money can work for you, right? So again, make sure you're taking care of your regular bills. Again, those who think they don't have money, I'll give you this here. You say you don't have money to invest, but you're buying coffee on the road. You're buying maybe chips, gum, or candy on the road. You're buying a bunch of things on the road regularly, right? Let's say, and you're spending more than this, but let's say you're just spending $7 a day. $7 a day. If you saved that money instead or invested that money instead and didn't put it out to buy these things, you bought less or you bought coffee at like in bulk at Walmart or wherever, and you made it at home, you got yourself a little travel mug. Don't have to buy the Starbucks. Don't get me started on Starbucks. If you're buying Starbucks, you're spending way more than $7 a day because that's your one venti or grande coffee. And you save that $7 a day. 7 times 30 is 210.
Yeah.
210. That means you have $210 a month that you can invest. But again, you don't know if you have that $210 if you don't know where your money's going. That's why doing that budget is so important, which leads into number 2. We need to do that budget to see where our money is going. Once we do our budget and see where our money is going, we will see how much we can really put aside for investments. And if you feel like after looking at all these numbers, you don't necessarily know that you have money to put aside for investing, look at what you're spending, right? Look at what you're getting on these miscellaneous items. And again, that $7 a day rule, you can save at least $210 a month, invest at least $210 a month, but start small is what I'm going to say, right? Start small. 25, 50 bucks, however much you feel like you can muster up. Look at that budget to see how much you really can and invest, right? Yeah. And when it comes to paying down debt as well, when you look at that budget, you will see how much you really can use to pay down these debts. And a point of emphasis here, because when I was in my debt situation, no one told me this, so I'm going to share it with you, right? And hopefully this is of value to your listeners. Make sure you pay at the very least, the minimum on all of your credit lines, meaning your line of credit, meaning your car payment, meaning your credit card payment, all of them across the board. You want to at least pay the minimum because there's different factors. I don't want to go too deep into it and confuse you, but there's different factors that make up your credit score. Payment history, I believe, is 35% of that. So if you miss payments, your score is going to drop because that makes up 35% of your credit score, right? So make sure you pay at the very least the minimum across the board. And then there's different strategies you can apply, the snowball method, the avalanche method, whichever. There's many methods out there to pay down that debt, right? But at least pay the minimum across the board. Hopefully that answers your question and helps a little bit.
Yeah, it does. I do have one more question to ask you though. Just having conversations with money. I've talked to someone else about this, and I think talking about money is probably the hardest thing to do. So for my audience, how can women have more open and honest conversations about money with their partners, friends, and family members?
I've heard this before, and I don't know necessarily how true it is. So please take this with a grain of salt and don't ridicule me in comments or anything like that. Women are typically better with money than men, right? That's what I've heard. I don't know how true it is. I think it's true, but I don't know how true it is, right? Look at Carlene advocating for all.
I know. You know why? Because I you know what? When I go through my hurdles with money, up and down, like staying on track and discipline. But I remember one of my boyfriends, he wasn't transparent. I think it was me just being like, just looking through stuff. And I'm like, you have student loan debt? I'm like, they're going to come after you. And like exactly what I said to him happened. They went into his account and I'm like, you can't just leave it like that. Like, you know what I mean? I know you were struggling before, but like in those situations, like just being transparent about money, like, yeah, it's hard, in relationships because it's just, yeah.
Absolutely. Right. And to that point, that's exactly where I was kind of going with it, where because women are, I think, technically, I've heard better than men with money. Oftentimes it might be that where it's just opening the conversation between you and your partner, right? How you open that conversation, you know your partner best, right? But open it in a way where it's not like you're drilling them, right?
That's the hard part, right? I think that's like we're always nagging. Like we don't mean to nag, but I'm talking from personal experience when I would get mad and I'm like, well, why didn't you know what I mean? And I'm like nagging. And maybe it might not have been the best way to talk to him about those things, but I was just like floored. Like, you know what I mean? It's just the reaction in the moment. But like my cousin said it to me, like there's certain ways that you talk to people and you're not going to get across by being so aggressive.
Exactly. Right. So just open up the conversation in a nice way, right setting, right time, let's say. Right way to start the conversation is the most important thing, because it's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it. So not drilling them, let's say, with a level of, I'm better than you with money. Kadeem said so. So let's have this conversation, right? We're not doing that. But open it up the right way, of course, and make sure, again, just as you want them to be transparent, you are also transparent. Because, and I think ultimately what helps with this is having a common goal, because again, it's a partnership, right? You having a common goal to say, and even having a goal if you're single, for yourself that you want to aim to achieve. We need to save $100,000 for this down payment on a house, whatever it might be, right? And in order for us to do that, we need to make sure we understand exactly where we both are financially. Here's what I have. Let's see what you have, right? Good way to start the conversation. And again, even if it's for yourself, you need to save $100,000, $75,000. Take that number and reverse engineer it. You want to save that money in 2 years because you plan to buy a house in 2 years? How much do you need to save every year, right? Cut that in half. How much you need to save every month? Well, divide that by 12. How much you need to pay every paycheck? If you get paid twice a month, divide that by 2. That'll give you an idea of how much you need to save every month. And again, we're not saving, we're investing for this goal. So ideally you put it in, there's calculators online, investment calculators. You can put into an investment calculator to say, okay, I got $500 a month I can save towards it. You put it in, you're getting 6% a year. It can calculate that for you, right? So I think that, again, how you open that conversation and having a common goal will definitely help.
Yeah, that is some great advice. And hopefully we've started the ball rolling. If someone is interested in reading the book, because it's not a long read, it's a few chapters. Like you said, it's not a heavy read. So where can they get the book, Wings of Abundance?
So they can get it on Amazon. Wings of Abundance on Amazon. You can purchase it. And of course, Amazon is going to ship that to you, right?
Is it anywhere else?
It is just on Amazon right now. Yeah, just on Amazon right now. And I appreciate anybody who does go ahead and read it. And if you do, you like it, go ahead and leave a review on Amazon, because that does help to put it in front of more people who can also benefit from the information. Because I know I'm biased, but there's good information, great information in there that, again, if you follow it, you will make a difference in your life. Just getting it to read it, just like any of these books here. Just read these books. I didn't do anything with the information. I will not be in the situation I'm in now.
But I think repetition is key, because I've read this one book and my mentor said to me, you need to read it again and then read it again. Yes. So even if you read it once in order to change the habit, right? I think it takes, how long does it take to form a new habit? Like, I mean, just even budgeting, you know what I mean? Like that's a new habit.
Yeah. So there's different research on it that it's not quite specified or determined. But the common thing is 21 days, right? So 21 days to form a new habit is what they say.
Okay. On average. Oh, I didn't know that. I learned something. All right.
Sorry. Yeah. The one last thing I'll say there is for the budget piece, because people might just say, okay, I got to do a budget. They'll do a budget. They'll never do it again. But the point of the budget is continually to do. That's why I said when your boat sets sail, you still need to investigate over time to see if the boat has holes in it, even as you're on the water. Now, at the very minimum, I would say once a month, do your budget. The very minimum. Check your numbers. And what does that mean? Do a budget. Okay, great. I've heard this before. Look at your statements, right? Your bank statements, wherever you spent money, wherever money came out of, whichever accounts. Print those out or look at them online and open up, let's say, an Excel spreadsheet or write down on paper, whatever's best for you to say, okay, this is how much I spent here. For groceries, I spent $200 for the month or $500 for the month. Gas for the car, I spent $300 for the month. So on and so write all of that down. And what you really want to look for is your income minus your expenses. Because once you take your income from all sources and all of your expenses, don't lie to yourself, then you will see something called your discretionary income. What your discretionary income is what you have left over after all of your bills are paid. Now, that is the amount where we need to, I say, aim to get that number to 0. The reason why I say that, not because you're increasing your expenses, but because you're increasing your investments. So if you have $200 left over, you can just disperse that money, some towards investment, some towards savings if you don't have any savings right now, because you mentioned this earlier, Carlene, and thank you for you just reminded me. If an emergency pops up, we know that emergencies happen. We know that if we have a phone, our phone could crack. We know if we have a car, the tire could pop. Why do we not have money set aside where we can cover these expenses or emergency situations when they come up? We know they're going to happen. My car just got hit the other day. I'm not worried about it because one, I have the money to cover it. And two, I've got insurance. So either way, I'm good. But that's because I took care of the emergency fund. So again, if you have $200, it depends on your situation and how you want to disperse that. But an example could be put $100 into my emergency fund because I don't currently have one. Put $100 into investment for my future self and my future family.
So like that emergency with a car, do you always get the car right away? Because sometimes it depends on if it's your fault, their fault. In most cases, do you get a car as quickly as you would want to get a car?
So let me clarify that. I don't have to replace my car if that's what you're asking.
Okay.
Yeah, my bumper got hit and I need to repaint the bumper and then they can attach the bumper again, put it back on. We're good to go.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like maybe $1,500 to $200 to $2,000. I have the money put away. I'm not worried about it. But at the same time, my insurance covers it. So even if the insurance didn't cover it because I have that emergency fund, I'm good. I don't need to worry about it. It's stress off of my back.
So if the insurance didn't, so you're saying having the emergency money in the event that your insurance does not cover it.
Well, yes. And that was an example of the car. But let's say your phone breaks.
Right.
How many of you listening to this right now are going to go a month or a few weeks without a new phone? It's not going to happen, right? A lot of you are going to run straight to Rogers, straight to Bell, Telus, wherever to get a new phone as soon as you can. Do you have the money put aside for that new phone? And if you don't, you can start building it up today. It's not a matter of what you did in the past. Today's a new day. Do your budget, figure your numbers out, and then set that emergency fund up. Or even if you're good with money, here's another thing. And discipline, like Carlene was saying earlier, you can have the money in investments that you're not going to touch. So you don't necessarily have to set up an emergency fund in savings, but you have your investments and you can utilize your credit card that's going to give you rewards to buy that thing, but then make sure you pay it off before that interest kicks in. Because at minimum, you have 21 days, right? Because your statement doesn't get released until 21 days after, it doesn't get released until whichever date of the month it gets released. Then you have 21 days from that day to pay it off before interest kicks in. All right. So that's for the disciplined one. If you're not so disciplined, you know yourself best, get that emergency fund in place.
Yeah. No, you made me think of that. Like if something happened to my phone, wow. Like that's so true. Because now your phone is everything. it's no more home phone, but yeah, lots to think about. Yeah.
Some of you have your phone as your Bitcoin wallet. I hope you have the seed phrase backed up somewhere. Because if you don't, your phone's gone.
Wow.
There goes your Bitcoin.
Wow. I didn't even know that was a thing. Lots to learn, right? Oh my goodness. That's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kadeem, for your time. I'm Carlene, and this is Diva Tonight with Kadeem. You can get his book on Amazon, Wings of Abundance. I think I have my work cut out for me, right? I'll definitely have to finish it. But yeah, thank you again.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Hopefully listeners got something.
Thanks for listening to Diva Tonight. Follow us on Instagram at Diva on the Radio. That's Diva with 2 I's. And don't forget to follow us on TikTok at Diva on the Radio for more clips and conversations you'll love. Want to share your thoughts or send us a message? Text us anytime at divatonight.buzzsprout.com. Until next time, stay fabulous.